Is a lot of communication needed in a person's life to be socially and mentally healthy. The way I'm going to go about painting a picture for this is, unfortunately, if you've played Sims or if you're a Sim lover, you'll relate more to the example I'm about to give. But one of the things in Sims is it has it keeps track of a person's social energy, their physical energy, their hygiene energy, so forth and so on. But the one in particular that pertains to this conversation is the social energy. One of the things that kept the social energy in this game, again, as my example, was the telephone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know this is just as vast as a person's veins because some people are communicative spirits and some people just are more solo. But there's something real interesting that is really triggering this particular conversation. And where it essentially will lead to is what communication has come to now. To what extent keeping us all extra connected has come to, and we can talk about the prices being paid literally, but the price is being paid on something so serious. If it went away, none of us would exist. Just tipping the iceberg on this. This is a politically incorrect conversation. Not claiming to be no scientist. Clouded intelligence. There are a lot of irreplaceable rare earth materials used for our current technologies today. A lot of these rare earth materials, let's say 85%, are tapped into in some instances in the worst of conditions for our current technology uses. The most immediate being cell phones, some of the most popular iPhones, which jokes have come across with, they change the iPhone every year. I don't understand it. I remember when consoles and new things, it was actually a few years, if not several years, before the new, better next thing came out. And I just by nature am only just now getting into technology, but I know a few years ago I found myself wondering how in the hell can, for instance, the people that put out the phones year after year after year, how can they get away with doing that? How can the consumers allow them to get away with doing that? I have the same arguments when it comes to the gaming systems, when it comes to the games themselves, where it's clear they purposely restrict the limitations of that game so that they can keep getting money off of the player. There's no longer buy that game and that maker put everything into it and what you take is what you get. I get it because things update, things change, but it's really clear when basic things are being held back on purpose to force another lump sum of money within 18 months later. It's kind of like the day when you used to wait forever for a movie to come out. Now you can get it real quick. What is the price that's being paid for these rare earth materials It's in our technology. What's the price that the earth is paying for?
Pain.
Like, what percentage of the world, we get so caught up on country things, individual life things, but what percentage of the world, one, really truly agrees that earth is living, or just think it's just a rock? Are these rare earth materials and the use is being tapped into, is it really needed? Is it needed? Like, do we really need all of the different technologies coming out so frequently that will put irreplaceable materials at risk? I expected to get into this, and I expected when I first kind of found out about this, which Cloud has had a few conversations based on this, and it's something that we'll be able to go into depth with. But I originally felt like no way in hell are whatever powers that be really tapping into irreplaceable earth minerals and materials and metals just for cell phones. It's gotta be some underlying undercover reason. And my initial thinking, because I'm just such the imaginative spirit, was that they tell us parts for cell phones, but maybe the rare earth materials are parts that would allow people to survive in space. Or build a spaceship that will actually get real information other than the information that we get. Like, surely if we're going to sacrifice things so precious, it's got to be for something equally as important. We've heard the theories over the years of people in a superior place feeling like, hey, the earth's a rock. Let's get our outer planetary construction on, and once this is all dried up, we'll move on to the next. Does that make us the proverbial viruses or hosts? I had a cousin who years ago had a theory to that. But then I got to really kind of just briefly looking into it, because a lot of things we do here at Cloud Intelligence is off the cuff. Yep. And I started to notice that a few of the rare earth materials that I just kind of schemed over for this conversation did have an alternative motive, but it wasn't for space. It was connected to health. And it's like, maybe not something that's imaginative or unattainable as space, but would you tap into something that's irreplaceable if it had the power to repair systems inside of the human body? Chromium's used as a metal in cell phone parts. There's different chromium. I'm no scientist. There's chromiums that's in our food, and then there's a certain type that's toxic to our body. But what struck me as odd, or I guess not really odd, because we are, as human beings of this earth, of the universe. We're in it. We're not separate from it. We're a part of it. Everything in it is in us.
Yep.
We know the stereotypical health problems that are, for myself, as being black.
Mm-hmm.
Chromium is used for improving blood sugar control.
So is it a dietary supplement?
In type 1 and type 2 diabetes. It's used in treatments involving diabetes and depression.
You said chromium or chromium?
Chromium.
Okay, yeah.
Chromium. CHROMIUM.
Okay.
The ovary system. Schizophrenia, heart attacks, people with bipolar disorders, binge eating disorders, pretty much everything. If we was to make a list to what health wise is plaguing the minority world, if there was a list that contained dots, green meaning some of the things chromium affects, it would all be lit up green. And I know this is the case with most minerals. Maybe it's just, silly you fool. Nothing under the sun has been done. But hey, it's not necessarily news to me. But what can be different is that rare earth materials, this was just one, are being mined.
Yeah.
In cases at the expense of lives. For cell phones? Is it? I'm so imaginative. I've always been on space and stuff, but
yeah.
yttrium is another one.
These elements are important.
Is toxic to the body. It's not something that we have to live. But in very small doses, it draws out impurities in the body. Through the hydrogen we intake, and it draws out metals that our body can intake. It's right now being studied for cancer treatment and all these other type of things that majority of percentage of is being used for technology.
Okay.
So at the end of it, it's gonna come to, and it's not being late or unaware of the already, woe, the things we do to this earth conversation.
Yeah.
But at some point in time, connections to our everyday regular life. And to what extent, when things are brought to a being's attention, because again, the earth is gone, we're gone.
Well, I got one of them.
At what point in time does a being begin to understand exactly where the mental process will have to start for eliminating unnecessary things in our world? I get it, it's contradicting. I'm speaking on material that these minerals are creating, our technologies. But it's almost like the stories you hear about the spike of inventors and inventions in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, or whatever, that projected more natural rays to achieve these same technologies without consuming as much of rare earth materials. Like learned in this that Levi jeans, to make Levi jeans, to make jeans, which most people usually own or have about 6 or 7 pair of,
Mm-hmm.
uses an astronomical amount of water to make their jeans. Rare earth materials, quote unquote blue gold. You only need very, very few things to actually survive. Levi jeans uses and wastes so much water. I believe the EPA or whatever government agency is supposed to be regulating that kind of thing, and they recently, I think, said that the way that they create the jeans now uses less water.
I guess they would need water because of the dye, I guess, to mix it with dye and all that.
Yeah. Some of the rare earth materials are not so foreign as far as right here what's necessary in our faces. Our fresh water systems. How could we argue something like placing a system under a fresh water system, knowing that if our man-made obstruction fails, it will contaminate something that is extremely precious to the daily life of our beings. We can go into particulars. Who's it going to affect? Who directly it does what to? But you got to be as cocky and ignorant or evil
That's usually the one.
to tap up under a water system. That sounds to me like another. Are we really tapping into rare earth materials and minerals for cell phones? Are you really putting a pipeline under a river system for oil?
Gas.
I get that because you messing with something, you're putting pressure in it. But is that really the reason, or is this some Trigun shit? You know, is this some Trigun shit? I'll have to break it down. Trigun was an animation series that was based on whatever powers that be controlling the water to the point of dried up. To the point of the surface that we know of being dried up. People's imaginations don't stop. Everybody can come up with a doomsday scenario, but you know, the hypothetical, if all the water dries up. Solar babies. The solar baby scenario for the 80s babies.
Yep.
If you're not familiar with Trigun. Solar babies. And then I'll just have to say, go see the movie. And I may have to put it as a movie reference. Please tune into Just Movies Reference.
I was about to say, another Just review.
Solar Babies was about powers that be controlling the water. Because if at a time the powers that be, which I try to keep from saying them and they, that's a new goal, put a placing to it. But if there's the people behind the veil, the people behind the curtain, the people we give so much power to being so methodical, I think some of the shit they go, we didn't even think of that. But we're going to go ahead and work on that.
Use it anyway.
Thanks for the idea. Well, they have their hypothetical, their offensive way for the scenario of, okay, what if everybody get hip? The Star Trek way.
Yeah.
What if everybody began to get hip that Money is just something pulled out of the figment of imagination, and it's the power you put on it. Society, it was necessary for society. At one point in time, human bodies was equivalent to money, in my speculation. Not dead human bodies, living, work the field human bodies, cultivate the earth human bodies was equivalent to what we make as dollar bills and coins. Mm-hmm. But the moment people just actually realize the next level, what's the next level? If the people remove the power money and coins and all that stuff has over them, the next level is the essential mineral of life. First topic being water. We need water. Fresh water.
Everything needs it.
You really put the pipe under there for some natural gas only? Or are you putting the means to drain a river system that may one day really affect some shit? I'm clouding my intelligence. You know, you originally have conversated about cell phones and bullshit with like rare earth materials. A lot of times, like this was originally Cloud's thing.
Catan. Or Catan. It's found in Africa, the Amazon, and it's rumored to be found on the China, the island that China's trying to get down into. And so, you know, when you hear the word rare earth material, you have to be leery about that and understand that rare earth material can be anything. If you notice, the news never tell you what rare earth material they mining. That's the word I was looking for earlier. That's the island that China's mining. But you know, don't quote me on that. So the whole thing with what's going on in Standing Rock is the whole. You heard what Jess said about, are they really trying to get water? I was saying, well, I'm worried about if it's a rupture in that, you know, pipeline. What damage would that cause? Which we already know what would happen. You know, we just had an oil spill with BP recently, and we saw the damage that did to the coral reefs and the sea life in the, if I'm mistaken, the Pacific Ocean or something like that. So I'm worried about if they build that pipeline, if it ruptures, that would leak gas or oil, whatever those pipes is traveling. You know, whatever's contained in those pipes, you know, at that point of time. So from what we saw, the pipe is making like a weird straight line, a weird diagonal line all the way down. It crosses the Missouri River all the way through Memphis. I mean, not Memphis, Tennessee, and, you know. So, you know, it is kind of scary on what will happen if that line, you know, this happen. You know, pipes don't last forever, right? You know, they actually redoing our pipes as we speak. There is pipe work done. They rupture. They get under pressure. As weather conditions, all these effects can happen and can cause these pipes to burst. So, I totally agree with Jess that we're mining this earth for all the wrong reasons.
Well, I mean, you bring up a good point to that, because we are connected to a river system that is directly being affected by it. It's not a nay to progress or the next level, but I was completely taken back, absolutely taken back. You know, when Cloud let me know, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, a week ago or so, that, you know, this isn't the first time the rerouting of that pipeline has come up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, did you say it came up before in some neighborhood.
Oh yes, it's about the rich neighborhoods.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I need to get that whole thing on there. What happened was it was said that the pipeline was going to be routed a specific type of way, and this specific type of way was in these neighboring wealthy type areas, or whatever you want to call them, plots or whatever. And you don't really hear about that much that actually happened. And so it was routed to where you see Standing Rock today, and that's not cool.
So to me, that's like this already came up. The people in this quote unquote rich area, or well off to do area, didn't want it in their neighborhood, didn't want it running through their neighborhood. They recognized and acknowledged the side effects. They didn't want their system messed up, and they successfully got it rerouted.
Quietly.
This is like some oblong shit.
Yep. They quietly did it.
So that to me says that there's some nefarious situation going on here, because they were able to recognize that it would affect their being. Go put it on over there. I mean, we've heard that time and time and time and time before. So again, it goes back into, I know, is that technology necessary? I get it. I am not driving no hybrid. Changing my way of life by tiptoeing around carbon prints and all that kind of shit.
Carbon emissions.
And not because I don't understand where the science is in it, but every example that I've seen to improve it has been a more fiscal example, not a for the heart of the earth. Maybe I'm wrong, but then they say this shit about the light bulbs, and they make all this big yahoo about the light bulbs that got rid of 67 cents for a 4-pack of light bulbs for this $20 supposed to last you forever as dim to brightness.
LED. Yep.
But then you come to find out true or untrue stories that suggest that was all a hustle. Not scientifically untrue, but there are possibly bigger fish to fry, so to speak.
Yep, all the time. It's crazy.
I've said, and we've been doing this and cultivating cloud intelligence since 2011. But I've said that hypothetically, you know how you see the Monopoly man, he's in his suit. Well, let's just say hypothetically, I am the man, I'm the family, I'm the bloodline that runs the electricity.
We did a show in 2012 or 2010 or something where Jess said, something about that, about people spending this much on video games and purses and whatnot. Then they was like, well, hell, you could spend $400 on your light bill.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
That was one of our original shows, people.
Yeah. Like if you the Monopoly man, you that person to be, that's exactly how you looking at it. There's no excuse. There's no sympathy on that. As far as technology is concerned, things that that's causing a sacrifice on a much more bigger scale. So attached and wired into our every single day living. Every single day living. to the point that the structure in the neck is changing.
People probably don't even know that when the oil prices raise, your gas prices raise. People don't know that. Natural gas. I'm not talking about what's in your car. So it's a monopoly. It's a total monopoly. It's a total game, and they know it. You know, and so it's real important to pay attention to OPEC and all these oil companies because that affects your day-to-day living also.
And I can imagine the rest of families in my likeness getting that. You know why? Because it never fucking goes away. It's there every single month on a triple scale because there's multiple utilities.